Jennifer Aniston found out the same way the rest of the world did. Emma Thompson said she was half alive after the truth came out. Laura Dern left home to film a movie and returned to discover her fiancé had married someone else. Robert Pattinson saw the photographs splashed across tabloid covers while promoting the final Twilight film. Film sets have a long history of creating the conditions for affairs. Long hours, intense emotional scenes, and a manufactured intimacy that sometimes bleeds into reality. And some of the people left behind have spoken publicly about what it felt like to watch their marriages end because of something that happened while cameras were rolling. From Brad Pitt meeting Angelina Jolie on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith to Kenneth Branagh starting an affair during the filming of Frankenstein. Here are actors who caught their partners cheating on the set. In January 2005, one of the most famous marriages in Hollywood ended. The couple that had posed for magazine covers attended red carpets arm in arm, and been the very image of American celebrity romance released a joint statement. "We would like to announce that after 7 years together, we have decided to formally separate. For those who follow these sorts of things, we would like to explain that our separation is not the result of any of the speculation reported by the tabloid media. The speculation they were referring to had a name, and that name was Angelina Jolie. It was on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith that Pitt, who married Jennifer Aniston in a highly publicized ceremony in 2000, met Angelina Jolie. The film was a stylish action comedy about a married couple who discover they are both secret assassins, working for competing agencies. On screen, Pitt and Jolie were required to simulate attraction, tension, flirtation, and deep physical chemistry. Off-screen, something began to develop that went far beyond the demands of a screenplay. Initially, the couple vehemently denied that they had gotten together while filming Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2004, despite compelling evidence to the contrary, but the timeline told a different story. Pitt was still very much married to Friends star Jennifer Aniston when tabloids picked up on his affair with Jolie. Aniston and Pitt split in January 2005. Pitt and Jolie went public with their relationship in April that year. The gap between those two events, January to April, was razor thin by Hollywood standards. 3 months separated the formal announcement of a broken marriage and the public debut of a new relationship. For anyone watching, the math was impossible to ignore. Aniston herself addressed the situation directly, and her reaction became one of the most quoted lines in tabloid history. "The world was shocked and I was shocked." That line carried an immense weight. It was not a detailed accusation, it was not a tearful breakdown. It was a simple acknowledgement that something had happened that she did not expect and did not consent to, and that she found out alongside everyone else. The private betrayal and the public spectacle were one and the same event. What made this situation particularly painful was the sheer visibility of all parties involved. Aniston was, at that point, one of the most recognizable television actresses in the world, fresh off a decade on Friends. Pitt was among the biggest movie stars on the planet, and Jolie was a rising force with an Academy Award already on her shelf. The triangle played out across magazine covers, entertainment news shows, late-night monologues, and water cooler conversations for months that turned into years. In 2016, Mark Behar, a bodyguard who had worked on the film, discussed the couple's on-set flirtation, telling Us Weekly that Angelina and Brad were constantly laughing and flirting. He went further, claiming that he caught them several times in each other's trailers making out. This account painted a picture that was far less ambiguous than the public denials had suggested. It wasn't a slow emotional drift. According to the bodyguard's account, it was physical, it was repeated, and it was happening on set in trailers within yards of cast and crew members. For years, the official line was that no romantic involvement occurred during filming. But then, in a 2008 interview with the New York Times, Angelina later admitted in a New York Times article that the movie was where the couple fell in love. That single admission unraveled years of careful public relations. If they fell in love on set, then the relationship had begun while Pitt was still married to Aniston. Pitt left Aniston for Jolie in 2005, a breakup that continues to fuel tabloid stories years after its occurrence. Aniston moved forward with her career. She dated, she eventually remarried, but the image of her as the wronged party in the most famous love triangle of the 21st century became embedded in pop culture in a way that never fully faded. Perhaps one of the most famous celebrity couples in the history of Hollywood, Brangelina not only had a rocky start, but also a difficult split. After falling head over heels while filming Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Pitt, who was married to Jennifer Aniston at the time, controversially filed for a divorce. Jolie and Pitt married in 2014 after a long relationship, But their divorce 2 years later was yet another shock for the media. In the end, the relationship that destroyed one of Hollywood's most celebrated marriages also did not survive. Pitt and Jolie's own split in 2016 became its own sprawling, litigious saga. But the origin point, a film set, a married man, a co-star, and a wife who didn't know, remains one of the starkest examples of how professional intimacy on camera can blur into real betrayal off it. In the early 1990s, Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson were the golden couple of British cinema. They were the golden couple of British cinema in the early 1990s, and were fondly nicknamed Ken and Em. They had met in 1987 while filming the BBC series Fortunes of War, and married 2 years later. Their collaboration extended beyond the personal into the professional in a way that seemed effortless and inspired. Branagh directed his wife in a string of films released between 1989 and 1993. Henry V, Dead Again, Peter's Friends, and Much Ado About Nothing. They were the kind of couple that made the idea of a creative partnership look not just possible, but desirable. Two Oscar-caliber talents working together, building something together, standing side by side at premieres and award ceremonies. There was no visible crack in the facade. Then came 1994 and a film called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Branagh's affair with Bonham Carter began in 1994 when he was directing and starring opposite the Dark Shadows actress in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Helena Bonham Carter had been cast in the film, and Branagh was both directing and playing the lead role of Victor Frankenstein. The intensity of a production like that, a big-budget gothic horror adaptation with elaborate sets and emotional scenes, created an environment where the director and his leading lady were spending an enormous amount of time together. In close, creatively charged quarters, the Oscar winners were married from 1989 until 1995. But Branagh began his affair with Bonham Carter the year before, when he directed and starred with her in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. This meant that while Thompson was at home or on her own sets working on her own projects, her husband was beginning a relationship with another woman under the cover of professional filmmaking. What made Thompson's situation especially devastating was how long she remained unaware. "I was utterly blind to the fact that he had relationships with other women on set," she explained. That word, utterly, repeated for emphasis, conveyed not just surprise but a profound sense of having been deceived. On the most fundamental level, she was not suspicious. She had no inkling. The discovery did not come through a slow accumulation of red flags. It came like a door swinging open to reveal a room she didn't know existed. She also reflected on what the experience taught her about self-deception. "What I learned was how easy it is to be blinded by your own desire to deceive yourself." This was not a woman blaming herself. It was a woman recognizing that when you trust someone deeply, your brain actively works to maintain that trust, filtering out signals that might challenge it. The affair was happening, but her mind was protecting her from seeing it. Thompson and Branagh announced their split in September 1995, but at the time, they blamed their breakup on their busy work schedules. It was the standard Hollywood cover story, two successful people who simply couldn't make the calendar work. But the truth was far more painful and far more specific. However, in 2013, Thompson confirmed long-standing rumors that Branagh had an affair with Bonham Carter, leading to the end of their marriage. It took nearly 2 decades for the full story to become public knowledge from Thompson herself, and when she did speak, the emotional weight was still palpable. "I was half alive. Any sense of being a lovable or worthy person had gone completely," Thompson told The New Yorker. That description, half alive, is not hyperbole. It speaks to the kind of personal annihilation that comes when the person you trust most violates that trust in the most intimate way possible. She didn't just lose a husband, she lost her sense of self. The aftermath bled into Thompson's art. In February 2018, the Emmy winner revealed that the moment in Love Actually where her character, Karen, discovers her husband's affair, was inspired by her own experience. "That scene where my character is standing by the bed crying is so well known because it's something everyone's been through," Thompson said during a fundraiser. "I had my heart very badly broken by Ken, so I knew what it was like to find the necklace that wasn't meant for me." That scene in Love Actually, where Thompson's character opens a Christmas present, expecting a beautiful necklace she'd found in her husband's coat, only to discover a Joni Mitchell CD instead, and retreats to the bedroom to cry before composing herself for her children, is one of the most emotionally powerful moments in modern romantic film. And Thompson was not acting from imagination. she was acting from memory. Greg Wise, whom she met while making Sense and Sensibility, was the person who picked up the pieces and put them back together. Thompson and Wise have been together since, building a life and a family far from the wreckage of her first marriage. As for Branagh and Bonham Carter and Branagh dated for 5 years before splitting in 1999. The relationship that had destroyed Thompson's marriage did not itself survive. Eventually, Thompson chose to release the anger. "It's all blood under the bridge," she said. "You can't hold on to anything like that. It's pointless. I haven't got the energy for it. Helena and I made our peace years and years ago." Thompson, Branagh, and Bonham Carter all later starred in the Harry Potter franchise. Thompson played Professor Sybil Trelawney, and Branagh portrayed Gilderoy Lockhart in the second movie. Thompson went on to reprise her role in the 5th and 8th installments, and Bonham Carter played Bellatrix Lestrange in the final 4 films. 3 people bound together by one of the most painful betrayals in British entertainment history, all appearing in the same beloved children's franchise. Hollywood has a dark sense of humor. In the summer of 2012, Robert Pattinson was on top of the world. The Twilight franchise had made him one of the most famous young actors alive. His relationship with co-star Kristen Stewart, a romance that had begun on the set of the vampire saga itself, had become one of the most obsessed over celebrity relationships of the decade. Millions of fans treated them as the real-life embodiment of Edward and Bella. They attended Comic-Con together. They held hands on red carpets. Kristen Stewart has been a tabloid fixture for as long as the Twilight film franchise has been playing in theaters, specifically for her off-screen relationship with co-star and beau Robert Pattinson. Then, on July 24, 2012, US Weekly published photographs that shattered everything. At the time, Sanders was married to Liberty Ross, while Stewart was dating Robert Pattinson. Sanders and Stewart were caught kissing on July 17, 2012, and Us Weekly broke news of their affair with exclusive photos, published online and in print a week later. The photo showed Stewart kissing Rupert Sanders, the 41-year-old director of Snow White and the Huntsman, the film she had just starred in. In 2012, Stewart, then 22, and Sanders, then 41, were photographed kissing while he was married to actress Liberty Ross, and she was dating her Twilight co-star, Robert Pattinson. The timing was catastrophic. Earlier that month, the cast, including Stewart, Pattinson, and Taylor Lautner, appeared at Comic-Con in San Diego to promote the final installment of the franchise. Just days before the photos surfaced, Stewart and Pattinson had attended the Teen Choice Awards together. The final Twilight film, Breaking Dawn Part 2, was due in theaters in November. The promotional machine for that film required Stewart and Pattinson to appear together, do press junkets together, and pretend that everything was fine. Right as the images of her kissing another man burned across every entertainment outlet on the planet. It caused a major backlash for both, and especially Stewart, who at the time was dating her Twilight co-star, Robert Pattinson. The backlash was overwhelming and ruthless. Stewart was eviscerated on social media, in tabloids, and even by then private citizen Donald Trump, who tweeted repeatedly that Pattinson should not take Stewart back. Stewart issued a public apology that was striking in its raw emotional specificity. In a shocking confession, Stewart, 22, was publicly apologizing for cheating on Pattinson with the married Rupert Sanders, who directed her and Charlize Theron in Snow White and the Huntsman. "I'm deeply sorry for the hurt and embarrassment I've caused to those close to me and everyone this has affected," she said in a statement to People magazine. She continued, "This momentary indiscretion has jeopardized the most important thing in my life, the person I love and respect the most, Rob." Soon after the story broke, the director issued a public apology to his wife of 11 years and their kids. "I love them with all my heart," he said. There were, in this situation, 2 betrayed partners. Robert Pattinson was one, Liberty Ross, Sanders' wife, and an actress who had actually appeared in Snow White and the Huntsman, as the Queen's mother was the other. Liberty Ross played Snow White's mother. Sanders had been directing his own wife in the same film, where he began an affair with his leading lady. The layers of betrayal in that arrangement are almost cinematic in their cruelty. Ross responded on social media with pointed brevity. She posted a picture of Snow White with the caption, "Not so pretty or so pure after all," and her Twitter carried a single word, "Wow." Stewart also spoke about her infamous 2012 affair with Sanders, which caused a media firestorm. After photographs were published of them kissing, Stewart split with Pattinson, and Sanders and wife Liberty Ross got a divorce. The fallout extended beyond personal relationships into professional consequences. "They didn't put me in that movie because I went through such a highly publicized scandal," Stewart said of the Snow White sequel. "They were scared of touching that." When the sequel, The Huntsman: Winter's War, was released in 2016, Stewart was not in it. Sanders was not directing it. The entire creative team had been reshaped because of what happened off-camera. Years later, Stewart reflected on the experience with the distance that time provides. "We lived in a different time then," said Stewart. "The slut-shaming that went down was so absurd. As for Pattinson, he handled the public dimension of the scandal with restraint. Her Twilight co-star seemed surprisingly okay about the situation, at least in a 2014 interview with Esquire. Cess happens, it's just young people, it's normal." Behind those casual words, however, was a young man who had been publicly humiliated in front of a global audience while trying to promote a franchise. That required him to pretend to be in love with the woman who had just betrayed him. The professionalism required in that situation is almost unimaginable. Laura Dern did not catch her fiancé in the act. She did not discover photographs or intercept messages. She found out the way the rest of the world did, through the press. In 1999, Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie met on the set of the Pushing Tin movie. A year later, the actor abruptly ended his engagement to Laura Dern and eloped to Las Vegas with Jolie. The setup was this. The Sling Blade star started dating fellow acclaimed actor Laura Dern in 1997. Dern had recently ended a relationship with Jeff Goldblum, and Thornton was in the process of divorcing his fourth wife. They moved in together. They got engaged. They were, by all accounts, planning a life together. The relationship was stable, it was public, and it was real. Then Thornton went to work on Pushing Tin, a comedy drama about air traffic controllers. Jolie and Thornton met on the set of the 1999 film Pushing Tin. In the film, Jolie and Thornton play a married couple working through strife after infidelity. Ironically, art imitated life because Thornton was very much in a relationship when he began his romance with Jolie. The irony was almost too perfect to be real. Their characters in the film were navigating the aftermath of cheating, and in real life, the actors playing those characters were beginning an affair that would destroy Thornton's existing relationship. At the time, the stars were each involved with someone else. Thornton with his fiancée Laura Dern and Jolie with fellow actor Timothy Hutton. Both walked into the film attached. Both walked out of it with those attachments severed or about to be. What happened next was one of the most abrupt departures in modern celebrity relationship history. After 2 years together, they were engaged and preparing for a wedding. When Billy Bob crossed paths with Angelina Jolie on the set of Pushing Tin in 1999, their whirlwind romance culminated in a spontaneous wedding in Las Vegas in May 2000, catching Laura off guard. Dern was away working on a film when it happened. She was not consulted. She was not informed. She was not given a phone call, a conversation, or even a text. She simply learned, as the rest of the public did, that the man she was engaged to had married someone else. Her account of the experience has become one of the most quoted statements about betrayal in Hollywood history. "And I've never heard from him again," she told Talk magazine. That sentence has a quality that feels almost literary in its construction. The ordinariness of leaving for work, the casualness of while I was away, and then the hammer blow of my boyfriend got married. The final clause, "and I've never heard from him again," adds a dimension of abandonment that goes beyond infidelity. He didn't just cheat, he didn't just leave, he vanished, completely, without a word. Dern felt completely blindsided by the end of her 3-year relationship. "It's like a sudden death. For no one has there been any closure or clarity," she shared. The comparison to a sudden death is deliberate and reveals the depth of the wound. In a death, at least, there is a body, a funeral, a moment of collective recognition. In this kind of abandonment, there is nothing, just silence where a relationship used to be. Following the breakup, Laura received support from her friend Melissa Etheridge. Etheridge went further, saying on Andy Cohen's Sirius XM radio show, "I was around when Angelina was not doing nice things with Billy Bob to Laura Dern. I broke into their home to get their stuff out because it was so nasty." The word nasty lands with a thud. Etheridge is not describing a polite breakup. She is describing a situation so hostile, so chaotic, that friends had to physically intervene to help Dern retrieve her belongings from the home she had shared with Thornton, a home she had left in good faith, expecting to return to the life she had built. Meanwhile, Thornton and Jolie dove headlong into one of the most sensational celebrity relationships of the early 2000s. Jolie notably had Thornton's name tattooed along her arm, and they both wore a vial of each other's blood around their necks. Their public appearances were marked by constant physical affection and provocative statements to the press. They were the anti-Aniston couple before the Brangelina saga would repeat the same pattern, because Jolie would later begin a relationship with Brad Pitt on the set of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, once again playing the role of the woman who met a taken man on a film set. Thornton and Jolie tied the knot in 2000, but they separated 3 years later. The relationship that had been so intense, so publicly all-consuming, and that had inflicted such profound damage on Laura Dern, lasted just 3 years. Thornton has acknowledged that he left Dern because he fell in love with Jolie, whom he met on the Pushing Tin set in 1999. There was no attempt to rewrite history or deny the timeline. He met someone on set, he fell in love, and he handled the transition with an almost astonishing lack of regard for the woman he had been planning to marry. In 2017, during an award event, Dern and the Bad Santa actor came across each other once again. After their messy breakup during the Golden Globe Awards, Thornton walked right past Dern, but she looked away. The moment was captured on camera, and for many days that moment caused a stir on the internet. 17 years later, the wound was still visible in a single brief televised look away. Not all of these stories play out on the sets of $100 million blockbusters. Some happen on the sets of Lifetime movies in quieter circumstances, but with consequences that are no less devastating. Actor Cibrian made major headlines when his met on the set of a film Love Story with singer LeAnn was caught on camera. The pair were co-stars in a 2009 Lifetime movie called Northern Lights, and despite being married to other people and Rhimes to backup dancer Dean Sharemet, they just couldn't resist getting to know each other better during filming. The affair between Cibrian and Rhimes became public in the most direct way possible. In March 2009, US Weekly published stills from a security video that appeared to show the pair kissing and holding hands during what seemed to be a decidedly not professional dinner date. In Laguna Beach, security camera footage, not grainy paparazzi photographs taken from across the street, actual surveillance footage showing the two co-stars in unmistakably romantic postures. In 2009, Cibrian and Rhimes were caught on camera passionately making out while on break from filming their movie Northern Lights. They were both married at the time, him to Brandi Glanville and her to Dean Sharemet. For Brandi Glanville, the discovery was not some private closed-door conversation. It was a media event. The photographs hit the internet, and suddenly the mother of two young boys was dealing with the disintegration of her marriage in front of an audience of millions. The two struck up an affair that would eventually end both of their respective marriages. Eddie was with Real Housewives star Brandi Glanville at the time, and she later told Howard Stern that she didn't think LeAnn stole her husband, as much as Eddie chose to leave. "No, you can't steal a man. He has to go." That response, "You can't steal a man, he has to go," is deceptively calm. Underneath the composed phrasing is a woman who has processed a catastrophic betrayal and arrived at a conclusion that places the blame squarely on the person who made the vow. She was not letting Rhimes off the hook entirely, but she was pointing the finger first and foremost at the man who had stood beside her and promised fidelity. The couple eventually married, but looking back, LeAnn says she regrets the way she chose to leave her first marriage. "My relationship with Dean was great, but ultimately it wasn't a fulfilling marriage for either of us. We got married so young, I was 19 and he was 21. So as we got older, we grew apart. I understand why people are disappointed in me, especially since I grew up as America's sweetheart. I think any relationship is hard to get out of, and I don't think the way I did it was right." Cibrian and Rhimes eventually married each other. Glanville went on to become a reality TV personality, and in her own way reclaimed the narrative by being unapologetically vocal about what happened to her. What connects all of these stories is a single environment: the film set. It's not unusual for film and TV stars to meet on set and begin dating. After all, they're spending quite a lot of time together, so it's only natural that romances and connections would bloom in that kind of situation. But sometimes love blossoms between two actors who were already dating or married to other people. The structure of a film production creates conditions that are uniquely dangerous for existing relationships. Cast members spend 12 to 16 hours a day together. They rehearse scenes of emotional vulnerability. They act out love, passion, conflict, and reconciliation, the entire spectrum of human intimacy under the guidance of a director who tells them to make it real. They share trailers, they eat together, they travel together. They are, for the duration of a shoot, living a parallel life together, and it is a life that is more emotionally heightened than anything waiting for them at home. Sure, acting is all about make-believe and convincing audiences that fiction is reality. But in certain cases, the pull of romance promised by a movie script ultimately bled into the private lives of the people playing the parts. And there are more examples beyond these. Chad Michael Murray and Sophia Bush were themselves co-stars when they first got together. They met on the set of One Tree Hill and married in 2005. When rumors swirled that Murray had cheated on his wife with Paris Hilton, his co-star on the film House of Wax. 5 months of marriage destroyed by what allegedly happened on an entirely different set. To make matters worse, Murray and Bush had to continue working together for another 3 years on One Tree Hill. When Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott met on the set of the Lifetime movie Mind Over Murder, they were both already married to other people. It wasn't long before the new co-stars struck up a relationship. In fact, Tori later admitted on her show True Tori that she and Dean had sex the first night that they'd met. The pattern is consistent. A set creates proximity. Proximity creates intimacy. Intimacy crosses a line, and the partner at home becomes the last to know. What separates these stories from ordinary cheating is the public dimension. When your spouse is famous, the humiliation is not private. It is broadcast, your pain becomes entertainment. Your worst moment becomes someone else's headline. Jennifer Aniston's shock, Emma Thompson's devastation, Laura Dern's abandonment, Robert Pattinson's quiet dignity, Brandi Glanville's defiance. Each of these responses became fodder for public consumption, analyzed and debated by millions of strangers. The film set does not cause infidelity. People do, but the set creates a hothouse, a sealed environment of shared purpose, heightened emotion, and manufactured closeness that makes the line between performance and reality dangerously thin. And when that line is crossed, the people waiting at home are the ones who pay the price.